because at my thrift store job, it has the largest background check I've ever even close to anything. It's so crazy. Yeah. Like when I got hired, it was like another month and a half before I started working.
It's crazy how like you hear about people like that doctor that would leave like sponges and like sew up like scissors in people. And like he would like get hired. He would like apply for a job at a hospital and then get hired like that day.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Meanwhile, working retail, it's like a month and a half long background check. We need it's like Gattaca. You need to have your fucking DNA samples.
Also, do you remember when
Very
that
silly.
news story was going around about the weird AI generated personality test to get hired at Target, where it was about like the blue alien? Do you remember
The
that?
blue creature?
The blue creature, literally.
Wow, shit.
There was a blue alien. Oh, whose name is Ash? That's why I remember it.
Oh yeah,
It's about an alien named Ash, and literally what it does is like it's like a picture of the alien falling off a bicycle, and it says like everything happens to me, and you have to say like yes or no.
What?
It's crazy.
To work at
It was like
Target?
I think so. It's like an AI like job screening thing that it was bought by a bunch of like bigger companies, and it was, the purpose is to like do a personality screen for like basically to see if you're a born slave.
I can't find this.
Wow.
Oh, here it's Olive Garden and
Olive Garden, even worse.
FedEx. Oh my God, there he is, calm in the storm. Wow, not me.
Oh, it's
This
just
is
me or
cool.
not me, and it's a statement, and you have to evaluate whether it means me or not me
this is
to work at Olive
awesome.
Garden.
I mean, they're giving you access to unlimited breadsticks. That's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
They can't have you fucking stress eating back
Meanwhile, to be president, you just have to give genuine hugs.
there.
Yeah.
Yes,
and people
dude,
will
and
cry about them on TV. This guy cried so much. Should we get into it?
Yeah, we should.
Okay, let's get into it. Welcome back to Boys Bible Study. Faith in the podcast. The story of how three men in a high stress situation were able to put their faith on the line and record a podcast. I am Ash, here with my co-hosts.
Scott.
And Julian.
Yes. I really enjoyed the documentary we watched this week. It was called George W. Bush, Faith in the White House. And the reason I enjoyed it was because it reminded me of a bygone era,
Yeah.
an era that is no longer ours, that we thought was incredibly shitty at the time.
And now we look back and, I don't know. Do you think it was pretty fucking horrible back then?
At the time, I remember, I was basically just old enough to start being like conscious of world events. But I remember many people thinking that it was like, these are some of the most corrupt and base and like worst times we've ever been in.
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
think that might be. I think that might be true. Not trying to say that it's better now. It's just a different form of bad. But like the Bush administration, like directly led to the deaths of like millions of people in the Middle East.
Yeah, I
in
know.
the current situation we're in now.
Indefinitely.
Yeah, I know.
Still to now.
It's- yeah, and it's like, yes, Trump is a bad person. I don't know if he's
Source?
inherently evil, but I do think that George W. Bush and the people in his administration are like evil from top to bottom. I do think many of the people in the Trump administration are evil.
It's interesting because I think my big takeaway, not even big takeaway, but like a takeaway I had from watching the documentary in total was like George Bush does seem like a nice guy. Whereas I think Donald Trump is like he just has like the mentality of a toddler who was never told like you can't do that.
You know what? I take that back. Bush really, they do seem like two sides of the same coin of just like totally empty head and just like personality that is like, was like handpicked by the fucking Illuminati to like be like, this will appeal to literally 1 more person than the other
Uh-huh.
candidate so that we can do anything we want.
This will keep them busy.
This is
And
our vessel.
neither one of them won the popular vote,
Right.
at least the first time. So it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know.
Well-
It's pretty crazy. Whereas like Trump fit the time of like people being really like pissed off and like looking for somebody who had like a boisterous personality, and George W. Bush like fit the time of like, you know, I feel like according to this documentary, like a Christian majority who like needed to be seen.
Yeah, who felt
Bring
unheard.
Yeah.
real morals back into the White House.
Yeah.
Not this,
And just like, yeah.
saxophone playing, wife cheater.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy that Al Gore lost because he was like boring.
Yeah.
I mean, many such cases, but it's just like you look back at these clips of George W. Bush, and it's not like he's not that exciting either.
I know. But you know what? I actually I want to go back to what Scott was saying, because I
Yeah.
felt this too with the documentary about like, I do get the sense from watching this documentary, which I will once again remind is called George W. Bush, Faith in the White House. I did get the sense watching this documentary that George W. Bush is a really nice guy. Like you would probably like him. And I
Yeah.
guess what I want to know is like, how are you a nice guy and get into like a 30-year war? Like, I know that's like sort of a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess one could absolutely argue that like what he did was the moral decision at the time and like protected American lives. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying like that was certainly the argument for his motivations and for his administration for like doing said
Mhm.
war. It's
Well-
crazy, man. I don't know. He seems nice. What do I know? I don't know.
There's a handful
Yeah.
of people they interview for this quote unquote documentary. One of them is somebody named Ted Haggard, who I at first thought it was notable. The horrible face he was making. I really didn't like it. The way he like raised his upper lip and like showed his teeth. It was like, I have to show my upper teeth at all times.
It was like an ape doing a threat response.
Yeah, totally. More on him in a little
Oh, yeah,
bit,
this
but
guy.
he says towards the end, in another 100 years, in the Islamic world, Bush will be viewed as a great liberator.
President Bush will be known as the man that stood up to Islamic fundamentalism being used to tyrannize their own people. So in another 100 years, in the Islamic world, he'll be viewed as a great liberator and the one who began the process to set them free from those who use Islam to enslave Islamic people politically.
So I imagine they talked Bush into thinking that as well. So he probably,
Yeah,
thinks that that's true.
I do remember that being very much the narrative at the time, that like these people were being like, number one, they attacked us, whoever,
Which
yeah,
they did.
either
quote,
Iraq
unquote.
or Afghanistan or
Somewhere
whoever.
over there.
Yeah, and like, and all the people around, like everyone else there outside of like the Taliban and Al Qaeda, like they, number one, the Taliban didn't attack us. Al Qaeda did,
Sure.
which Al Qaeda was in like Pakistan. Not really. I mean, I guess all over, but like for some reason, it also turned into like the Taliban. We have to free the people there, and then we also have to free the people under Saddam Hussein.
Right.
And like, I guess the
Gotta catch
narrative
'em
was
all.
just like, I guess I can see getting talked into this whole thing because like, 9/11 happens and that shit's fucking crazy. And then you're just like, well, while we're over there, might as well fuck everything up.
Well, yeah, it's like if you're already like moving your furniture, you might as well mop the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this documentary, which, documentary we'll continue to just assume it's in scare quotes every time we say
it's
it.
It's a hagiography. It's not like a full on doxploitation like how our boy Ray Comfort does, but it is like clearly a puff piece for George Bush. Like this did come out in 2004. It is although it is not officially from his campaign, it is by people who are interested in him being reelected.
Certainly so. Actually, you know what? This is a really good point. Watching this after Ray Comfort, we're going through Dante's Inferno of like documentaries. It's like the least ethical points of view for a documentary. Not even the subject matter on display, but the style of storytelling and information dispensing. I really do feel like we're going through Dante's Inferno right now. It's amazing. And by the way, I want to point out Ray Comfort is worse than this one.
Yeah.
I mean to say that Ray Comfort is the worst one, and this one about George W. Bush laundering, killing millions of people through him being a smiley Christian is actually slightly better.
Yeah.
And more ethical and
slightly more honest.
I'm just gonna say that. So yeah, documentary, just assume it's in scare quotes for the rest of this. What this documentary was putting forth is that what made George W. Bush such a strong leader and strong president, and why he was able to respond to 9/11 so decisively and to liberate the Middle East and protect Americans and all of the great things he did, was because he was open and honest about his Christian faith, because he prayed in the White House, and yeah, just because his faith is a big part of his moral life.
Bush has a moral clarity befitting a world leader as opposed to the relativist view of many European leaders and much of the left in this country.
So now you know.
This documentary is awesome because it would take like articles from like the failing New York Times that were like, George W. Bush thinks of himself as something of a god emperor of the United States, hell-bent on sending, spreading Christianity through violence across the world. And like people would be like, to quote this article, George W. Bush thinks he's a god emperor who wants to spread Christianity through violence. Isn't that amazing? It was like so funny the way that like, it's just like, I would like, they would show those quotes and I would just be like, there really is just like no meeting in the middle in American politics for like anyone. Because you can say like what you think is like the most insulting thing about somebody. And,
right.
And then like their supporters will just be like, isn't that awesome?
Yeah, they can be like, really? It's kind of like how I re-listened to our conversation last week when I did my editing pass after Scott did, and I was remarking about how one of our conclusions last week was, why would you ever try to make someone else think differently than they already do? It's impossible. That was like what we learned from watching Ray Comfort, and that's a theme that's continuing this week because they just have like one of the most evil looking women of all time being like, it's great that George W. Bush was a god emperor of America in 2000.
Who's still going today. I looked her up right before this. Still
going
strong.
Let's talk about her. So that is Janet Parshall, the host of Tough Faith, which like, dude, can you imagine having a serious podcast?
That's cool.
Like, it wasn't, I'm sure what she was doing wasn't a podcast. It was like some radio or TV show, but
radio.
Like, okay. Wow. So she is a podcaster. Like,
radio is, I've been listening to a lot of old Coast to Coast AMs, and there's just something about the radio shows that are just like, it's so much more engaging than a fucking podcast.
Wow.
Maybe it's the quality. Maybe
not the way we do it.
Yeah, but can you imagine if our podcast sounded like it was coming through on an AM transmission?
We should try putting that out. Wait,
I think there's something about, because I was also, I forget if I probably told you this, but I like found the AM band for like the classic country station.
Yeah,
which is like 1980 to like 2010 is like classics. But Yeah, it just like, and then I found the HD version on FM, and it was just like, man, this is just like not the same. It needs to come
Wow.
through on the AM.
You know what? If we have time this week, let's do our best to run just this episode through the AM radio filter and put it on Patreon. So
Ooh.
people have the option to listen to this on AM radio. I think that's a really good idea. Hopefully, I wonder what kind of signal processing we could do to get that effect. I bet there's a way. Janet Parshall, per Wikipedia, she's 75 years old. She was born in 1950. An American nationally syndicated radio talk show host known for the Christian program In the Market with Janet Parshall, which is broadcast on the Moody Radio Network on over 700 stations. It's a Christian radio network. It's owned by the Moody Bible Institute.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
What is going on?
Moody
They're
Bridal
huge.
Institute, as they called it when I worked with people from there in Chicago.
Oh, you know about the Moody Bible Institute.
Yeah, because when I lived in Chicago, when I was doing catering, the main place I catered for, probably 80% of their employees had some relation to Moody Bible Institute. And part of it was like that, like none of them drink, because that's like a big problem in catering. Because even if somebody's a good worker, there's like a decent chance they're like a functioning alcoholic.
Right, of course.
And so in that case, that was not an issue. But talking to a number of Moody Bible Institute students, they would refer to it as Moody Bridal Institute, because they're like, everybody's trying to get married there so that they can have sex.
So wait, what
That's
is this? It's a
amazing.
school?
Yeah,
And
well,
these
it's a
people
lot of
were
things,
like-
but yeah, it is a college. Yeah,
Why did they all work for your catering company?
just because out of convenience, flexible hours.
So interesting. But it's
Don't
like
need
interesting that
experience.
there's like a Moody Bible Institute to this catering company pipeline.
Yeah,
Like, how
Yeah.
did you end up there? But it was-
just because I
did
was
they
doing.
just
I worked for a couple different catering places, but that ended up being the big one that I would get the most gigs with, and so.
Mm. So do you think there was just like, it was just like one person was like, went back at the Moody Bible Institute, like went back there and was like, hey, I know a place you can get some extra scratch. And then it just like,
Yeah, they must like what's the word? In my head, I'm saying headhunt, but not headhunt. But like put the word out on campus.
yeah.
It's like when you give like a raccoon like half of your, Mandarin orange, and then
Yeah.
the whole family comes back later.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, basically.
Oh, by the way, here's the most recent episode of In the Market with Janet Parshall. It's from June 23rd. It's titled Anti-Semitism in the End Times.
Okay.
Description: as inflammatory rhetoric and unprovoked violence against Jews surge worldwide.
Not happening.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
Grammatically incorrect. As inflammatory rhetoric and unprovoked violence against Jews surges worldwide.
Yeah.
Dude, I write our podcast copy every fucking week. These people, whoever's doing this is probably getting paid $150,000.
Yeah, definitely. That's on the low end.
Exactly. No, Scott and I we could run the Moody Radio Network
Yeah.
together. We'd
Yeah, I
split our
think so.
salary like that one
Yeah.
It's Always Sunny episode. Anyway, what is next on God's agenda for his people of promise, and how can we, as friends of the Jewish people and of Israel, fight against this rising hatred?
This is so crazy.
So this is what Janet's talking about right now. But, back in 2004, she was the host of George W. Bush Faith in the White House. And she's a beautiful woman. She has like a crazy face. Like, I don't mean like she's ugly, like far from it. I think she has like a great face for a conservative radio broadcaster. She has a face for radio, as my dad would always say. But she just she does this weird like smize, like this evil smize, where she would be like, and George W. Bush liberated the Middle East, and does her like little smile, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
God, she gave me the chills.
She seemed like she was up to something. Although her face
No,
wasn't
she really
as bad
does.
as Ted's. I mean, they
Oh my
both
God,
had
well,
very.
I mean,
Strong faces.
It's not a competition. This documentary was another personnel thing I found very interesting about this documentary. Did you happen to look up the career of producer Charles E. Sellier?
No.
I looked it up, and he is the founder and president of Grizzly Adams Productions, Inc., and I believe that is because I haven't determined this, but he created the TV show The Life and Times of Grizzly Adams in the 70s.
Oh, I was wondering
That was
why
his,
that
like-
was the production name.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was his like claim to fame, and that's the name of his production company. And it seems like he made his money or made some money doing that. And honestly, from what I can tell, it seems like since then he's just devoted his career to like basically making like doing things he's passionate about. I mean, I'm sure he got paid, but like he makes like high quality professional level propaganda for like George W. Bush, and he makes things like Miracles in Our Midst and In Search for Heaven. I mean, we should watch more of his stuff. Like
Angels in Disguise. Angels Sent on Assignment. Well, we got to watch that.
whoa. Yeah, we really do. No, I think I bet that we could go through his like productions. They'll probably be kind of like dry and documentary style, like the one we watched today, but he has a lot. He has a long career. So
I've definitely
Something to
seen
keep
a
in
couple
mind.
of these. Seen Awesome Bible Adventures. I've seen Breaking the Da Vinci Code pop up in my feed a lot. Ooh, The Fabric of
Yeah.
Time. That sounds good.
that one looks good. Yeah, that one looks good.
The Incredible
Charles E.
Power
Sellier.
of Prayer, but that's like in front of the White House again.
Okay, so he's returned back
This
here.
docudramatic series explores the incredible power of prayer at work in 500 years of American history. Wow.
Okay, interesting. This was also directed by David W. Balsiger. And it seems like he directed a bunch of these like Charles Sellier productions. A lot of them, in fact. So that's what's going on the production side of this.
Wait, he did one called The Quest for Noah's Ark, and the tagline underneath it says astounding eyewitness accounts of sighting Noah's Ark. What?
Wait, what?
Okay, that is a new
I want
one.
to see that.
I've really got to say that is a new one because
Like shitty cell phone footage of Noah's Ark in the ocean.
Yeah. 3GP.
That'd be cool. Angels Sent on Assignment.
Yeah,
Angels
that
in
one we should watch
Disguise.
because we be staying watching Angels Sent on Assignment this year.
yeah, I know.
I actually
They understood the damn assignment.
spoiler, I have another Angels Sent on Assignment thing for us to watch next week. If you guys are down.
Incredible power.
Well,
of
I just looked at
prayer.
the text thread, and I really like the screenshot that you sent, Scott, of the being a partial partner on Janet
Yeah.
Partial's website. You can call 877-JANET-58 and become a partial partner today to get exclusive resources from Janet. She also has a question of the week on her website. So that's really awesome if you want to like participate with Janet a little more. The current question is: we live in an age where we are witnessing wars and hearing rumors of more wars. It can be unsettling, but for followers of Christ, our response should be different from the world. Facts. How do you respond to headlines that are constantly warning of doom and gloom? Thanks for taking the time to answer the question. A, I can't sleep at night. B, I am in a heightened state of anxiety, etc. Okay, so that's what's going on in with the partial partners.
Doom Scroll. It's not even in the list.
Yeah, it's not in the list. She's not tapped in, but
Yeah.
But let's talk about the content of this documentary. So the documentary starts with honestly one of my most interesting moments to me, and it kind of uses this to like frame Bush's influence in the White House in general. But it cuts to like I believe this was a primary debate for George W. Bush before his first term. where the debate moderator asks him, Mr. Bush, who is your favorite philosopher? And he says, well, my favorite philosopher is Christ because he changed my heart.
When the moderator in the Iowa debate asked each candidate to name the philosopher they admired most.
Governor Bush, a philosopher thinker, and why?
Christ, because he changed my heart.
The question was simple and straightforward. The answer came without hesitation. But in the nation's capital, a shockwave rumbled through the halls of government. Could it be that a candidate for president of the United States would actually fly in the face of political correctness and espouse not just religious convictions, but a firm belief in Jesus Christ? Critics and pundits were quick to suggest Bush had committed political suicide.
Apparently, I wasn't conscious of this at the time, many pundits believed that this was political suicide. But it wasn't. In fact, his candor, his honesty, and his willingness to speak openly about his faith seems to have won him the hearts of Joe Averages everywhere. And this was indeed not political suicide. What do you think about that?
So saith the documentary. Pretty cool. Standing up, being straightforward, seeming genuine.
Right.
Honestly, not something you usually see from somebody running for office.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I mean,
he was so
yeah.
smart. And we all laughed.
I know. Yeah, he
and
was
it just happens every fucking time
Hmm.
one of these silly little men comes along.
Yeah, I guess that was my next question. Maybe this is a naive question, but like, do you think that him putting his faith forward was a measured part of his campaign?
Yes, I think so. I mean, he had so many people pulling his string. I don't think any campaign, I mean, except for Trump, who so clearly just does whatever the fuck he wants and like
Right.
it works out for him. It's like I do think that they were like purposely like trying to tap into the Christian right. And like I mean this is a time when like Touched by an Angel was still on TV. Like
This is the Touched by an Angel
it's
generation.
like crazy to think that anybody thought that was like a stupid idea, but like this was also
Right.
the start of like out of touch like liberals,
Mhm.
liberal elites, and like this is like the beginning of like liberal elites being like stupid Republican. Nobody believes in God anymore, and then
Right.
finding out that like oh yeah, everybody is a Christian.
Right. That's a very good point. But yeah, he was the president for the Touched by an Angel generation. On TV, they could turn on ABC and they could watch Gloria going to a rave and taking ecstasy. And then you could flip to a new channel and see George W. Bush, your future president, saying that his favorite philosopher was Christ.
Incredible. What a great
Incredible.
time in human history. Another
I know.
great time in human history.
Yeah, another great time in human history. The religious right thing is very interesting because I'm far from the first person to point this out, but I think that's something that is a little difficult for people, especially like millennials and older, to grasp, is that in my opinion, which is basically stolen from other people's opinions, in the 2000s, the religious right, yes, were dominating the American landscape. They're no longer dominating anymore. And I feel like what's predominantly in the conservative landscape now is just we want to do things that make liberals upset. That is like a greater religion than like Christianity.
Yeah.
But what I guess I'm trying to say is like right now, the religious right is not so much a dominant force. You know, Trump is not a representative of the religious right. He may affect policies that are in accordance with some conservative religious people,
Yeah.
but that's not his goal. That's not the type of candidate he represents.
I mean,
It is a dominant force in politics, in American politics, though, for sure.
do Christians think that Donald Trump is Christian? I mean, I'm not arguing the fact that like people think that he is like a vessel for
Well,
Christian forces or whatever.
that's
but like,
what I think people think.
I just like the man has like never done anything to like, wasn't he like Catholic the other week? And then he's like, I don't know,
Yeah,
it's just so weird to me that anybody would think that that is. I mean,
Well,
I don't
I
know
think
why I'm fucking surprised. People put whatever meaning on.
at least for my
anything.
family members, they do not buy it. No.
Yeah,
I think that
but do they like him? Like, do they still think
No,
that like
also
what he
no.
is doing is good for Christianity? Because I'm more curious about
well-
people who are like Well, I know he's not Christian, but his actions are.
Yes.
Christian.
Yeah,
And
his
that kind of
actions
goes
are-
back to the Trump prophecy, the movie we covered
yes,
Right.
yes.
a while ago. In that they were definitely setting it up to say like, well, is he necessarily like morally pure? No, but will he push forward our extreme right Christian agenda? Yes.
Yes, and in that way, he's like functionally chosen by God to be a vessel because he's like the only politician like audacious enough in our current landscape to be doing the Lord's work. I mean, in the Trump prophecy, which is a very interesting comparison to this, the big thing that causes people to believe that he's like divinely ordained in a way is the fact that he was advocating for the U.S. embassy in Israel to be moved to Jerusalem,
Right.
which again people saw as a very important thing that was like based on Bible code.
Right.
And that was the first movie. I mean, it's insane to me that this was something I ever like didn't know, but that was the first movie that I watched that made me realize that there were like millions of people out there who want the apocalypse to happen as soon as
Oh, yeah.
possible.
yeah. And they think if
Like,
they can
that's
check off the
so-
whole
yeah.
scavenger hunt list, then you get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool. It's like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like Banjo Kazooie. It's like you collect all the puzzle pieces and the notes and like the
The
Jinjos,
final level.
Mhm.
and then you get, and then the whole world gets blown up.
Yeah. No, they think
But-
it's a fucking game, and you can just like God made a little game. I guess I don't know. People's
Right.
vision of what God is makes no fucking sense to me. That's what gets so confusing
Yeah.
to me with like the Ray Comfort stuff. I'm like, what are you imagining? I wish I could see in his brain what he's imagining God is.
Yeah.
Like, it's our Earth is like God's Hellraiser cube, and we're just trying to like solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some people are
Right.
just like, well.
Well.
I was thinking about Reagan too
Well?
in this. I mean, he did come up a couple times briefly, but
Yeah.
just the
Yes, he
hagiography aspect, because that movie Reagan that we covered, that wonderful movie, much more enjoyable
Yeah.
movie, was also
Oh my God.
the equivalent
No
of this,
competition.
but in a dramatic narrative format.
Right. It was more in the dramatic narrative format. I like that how honestly, it's cool to think about Reagan and George W. Bush faith in the White House and the Trump prophecy and show how each one has to use like the character of the president to like and just impress their own ideas of him on him as a
Yeah.
character. I think the Trump prophecy is the funniest one when you think about that because they are straight up just being like, yeah, and he was foretold by Revelations because he like talked about Israel one time. Like it's like the Trump. You can tell that was made for our times because like
Yeah.
I don't mean conspiracy theory in the sense that like it's not happening. I mean conspiracy theory in the sense that like people are connecting very dissimilar points of information to draw a conclusion.
It's also funny to think that like, yeah, it's a God incidence that he's talking about moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
Right.
Like not like it's a totally calculated thing to make him
Right.
seem like he is
Yeah.
I know.
in touch with the Bible. It's like
And also like
Come on.
what do you it's like a fucking watching like they're like watching a TV show.
yes, well because to compare
It's not real life
In-
to them, even though they think it's real life. It's like the logic is just not.
okay, but just think
It's-
about this.
It's not grounded in reality.
Okay, I'm just going to point out 3 rhetorical devices, one from each movie. Reagan movie. Reagan uses jelly beans as a means to gauge people's personality.
Yeah.
George W. Bush gave a guy a big hug, and that means he'll be a good president.
Yep.
Trump prophecy. A firefighter had a dream about Donald Trump, so he should be president. These are the different like eras of American history. I mean, Reagan was made recently, so it's kind of hard to put it back in its time. Whereas the George W. Bush one was actually made in the time of Bush. So it's like we get to see the rhetorical style of that time, which is exciting. But I just think of all three, the Trump prophecy is really just, that is a deranged movie for a deranged time in American history.
They're getting him further and further away with each of these movies from the actual main actor, so to speak. Like for Reagan, it's directly him talking. You're watching him interact. It's about him. He is at the center of it. And this, they're like, in the documentary we just watched, they're picking and choosing things to show and then talk about George Bush and explain why what he's doing is good. And then with Trump, they can't even show him indirectly. They just have to talk about the idea of like, he has to be completely out of the room or else you would be like, oh God, no.
Yeah. You're so right. And like in the George W. Bush documentary, it is like interviews with people who associated with him, you know, worked for him, worked with him, claimed to be friends with him in some capacity. In the Trump prophecy, it's like, this is a story of a firefighter who had a dream. That's like the level of connection.
Yep.
Yeah. That's like the level of connection with the subject that we get to.
Yep.
It just goes to show you like
What's
where
next?
we're at.
The terrorist one.
What's next?
The terrorist. So Osama bin Laden straight up won.
Yeah.
9/11.
I know.
I hate to break it to everybody.
I know.
On the 9/11.
It's very,
But
very
honestly, the
obvious.
refs were very dishonest.
I know
will
it was
say.
rigged.
It was sort of
The
rigged.
fucking, don't even get me started.
Yeah, I know. Actually, you know what the next documentary will be like? And this is for, you know, me and Scott and anyone else who saw this movie, but it'll literally be like RachelOrmont.com. It'll be like your personal AI best friend telling you that like, you know, President Kai Cenat is like, his policies will like put more Robux in your
Here, I'm going to
in
ask
your account.
ChatGPT right now why Mr. Beast should be the next president of the United States.
Dude, I hate to say it, I'm afraid my beast is washed, man. I just don't know if he can come back.
recently?
I don't even know if he did anything. I just feel like the public tide is really turning against him. And like, you know, it's all about iShowSpeed now. Like,
Interesting.
I don't know if iShow's okay. Here's something I learned about iShowSpeed. I learned this on Twitter. In the Chengdu airport in China right now, when you are, I believe, entering China or maybe leaving, they play a video loop of iShowSpeed saying, like, I can't remember exactly the quote, but it's basically like, China's got it going on. It's literally just a loop of iShowSpeed complimenting China.
That's cool.
He is the American ambassador to the entire world. Everyone loves iShowSpeed.
Damn.
I also
for
watched a
him.
Chinese documentary that was auto-translated into English that was about iShowSpeed and his like remarkable trip. And apparently there was a woman, he was on a train, iShowSpeed, and he was like jumping in between the platforms because, you know, his thing is he's like a wacky guy.
Yeah.
And this like young Chinese woman like politely asked him to stop and that he might be a bad influence on the kids who are watching the stream. And he said, "Oh, you're right. I apologize." And apparently that woman like went viral in China for like being polite and for having a good command of English and like politely informing a stranger of his like impolite behavior.
That's cool.
Yeah, she
That's
went, like,
pretty cool
viral.
that he was like, okay, I'll stop.
Yeah. No, he seems like a nice guy.
I'll vote for him.
He seems like a nice guy.
I'll vote for him.
Anyway, I don't think iShowSpeed is the Antichrist. I think Mr. Beast is a failed Antichrist. I think they were going to try to make him the Antichrist, but it's just like not really sticking the landing.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll be president. If he does run, I will campaign for him. I've made that promise. I'm not going to go back on that, but that's how I feel.
Oh, I liked in the Bush movie when they talked about him meeting Putin, and he's talking about how he looked in his eyes and saw that he had a good soul or something like that. And that's why we were able to fly our planes over Russia to like bomb the Taliban or whatever.
Oh, that's
Jesus
right.
Christ.
Yeah, I
Good
forgot
call.
about that. They were like, under no other president could that kind of miracle have been pulled off.
I remember when the president met Putin in June of 2001 in Slovenia. It was not long after he'd become president, and Bush said something rather flattering to Putin like, I saw this guy, I looked into his soul, and he's a good man.
Yeah, what were some of our other favorite George Bush having a beautiful soul / good faith moments for the... Okay, can I please say mine? I'm actually so excited about this one. He met with roving evangelist Arthur Blessed. So Arthur Blessed is a roving evangelist who goes on missions where he wheels a cross around, and he appears to refer to these as his crusades. Oh, it's Arthur Blessed. Blessed, which could be a real last name. I thought it was Blessed. He
Sounds
walks
just as
around
equally
Earth.
fake.
I know, yeah. He walks around the whole world holding a big wooden cross, and
That's on
he
wheels.
met with George W. Bush. It's on wheels.
He's cheating. Sorry,
He's
go on.
cheating. It's true. It's really, really worth pointing out. But they, some guy is talking about Blessed with George W. Bush, and allegedly George W. Bush said to him, "Oh, I met with Arthur Blessed," and this very much impressed the other evangelist. And then the documentary shows this is the place where George W. Bush met with Arthur Blessed, and it's just a file photo of a Holiday Inn, and then a picture of the picture of the interior of the Holiday Inn, like as if it was like Stonehenge, but it's just like
It's like
a
picture
chain
in
hotel.
picture, like like the conference room was in the bottom right
Yeah.
corner over the Holiday Inn.
Yeah, and I guess George W. Bush offered to give Arthur Blessed money for his crusade, and Arthur Blessed turned it down. But this showed that George W. Bush was like a real one who like really supported evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur Blessed allegedly walked over 43,000 miles in his lifetime in 324 different countries, carrying the cross.
Wow.
Just so you know.
They should remake Forrest Gump, but he's carrying a cross everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
You're getting whipped.
That would be the most popular movie of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he,
It's like Assassin 33 AD combined with Forrest Gump.
was it? How does he get the smiley face thing? He like rubs his face with the dirt.
I don't
He like
remember.
rubs his face and it makes the smiley face.
Oh, right.
Am I misremembering that?
No,
you're
I just haven't
right.
seen that movie in
That-
ages.
because-
I'm just like
because
he's
the
wearing
smiley-
a crown of
yeah.
thorn. Yeah, he's wearing a crown of thorns and he rubs his face and it's like
It's the
all
Shroud
the
of Turin.
blood. Yeah, it's the Shroud of Turin.
That's so fire.
That's good.
That was my favorite Bush beautiful soul moment.
I liked shortly before that, they talked about one of the interviewees said he expects everyone to wear private business attire and encourages his coworkers basically to read their Bible and pray every day.
What's even more amazing is his respect for the Oval Office itself. He treats it like a sacred trust, a sacred place, and won't even enter the Oval Office without wearing a suit, even during non-working hours on the weekend. And he also expects everyone else to wear proper business attire. There are no casual dress Fridays, and what's more, he expects everyone to respect each other, to be on time for meetings, to get their work in on time, and he encourages everyone to pray and read the Bible every day.
But this regimen and his reliance on prayer drives some critics up the wall. Robert Shear of the LA Times wrote,
Of course, as a self-described messenger of God who was praying for strength to do the Lord's will, Bush was not troubled about shredding a little secular document called the U.S. Constitution.
Yeah, that was very important. Like, they wear a suit every day in the White House. Like, okay.
Even when he had to go in on weekends, he would
crazy.
wear a suit into the Oval Office.
Well, he had respect for the White House. Meanwhile, I mean, honestly, one of the greatest things about Donald Trump is that he like doesn't really seem to respect the White House that much. Like he's always like
kind of awesome.
he's always like taking down like pictures of George Washington to hang up like AI art of himself. Which
It's really, I mean, who was I talking to where like, yeah, somebody sent me a photo of the like weird like canvas print,
yeah,
like painting of like not even painting of his face with the American
yes,
flag.
yes,
And it's
that's
like,
the one I'm thinking of.
he is the closest thing we have ever had to just a normal person in the White House.
I know.
Like that is just like what people
It is
decorate
true.
their houses with. Like
Yeah,
whether or not
nowadays-
you like it, that is like just, I know it's crazy because he's like was born into like a rich family and like seemingly has like is a very opulent person, but he is just like what the average person would do if they were like rich
No, you're right.
and powerful.
He like eats McDonald's and drinks Diet Coke and like hangs up like Temu shower curtains.
Yeah, and he has like absolutely no taste and
Yeah.
like just is like hates like culture basically.
and it's
He's, like
and it's
he's-
authentic.
Yeah,
like it doesn't seem like he's doing that as a put on. Like, oh, I eat McDonald's like the peons.
I mean, his
It's like,
favorite
no,
thing
he
is
likes
Cats.
McDonald's.
Like his favorite musical is Cats. It's
Right.
like the most famous thing. Like that's one of the most beloved Broadway things. It's not like he has like niche interests or like refined taste or whatever. He's just like the closest thing to like a mainstream individual we will ever have.
In a way, you're right. I mean, yeah, you know, obviously what was prized about George Bush is that, you know, he wasn't mainstream. He was maybe relatable, but he was still exceptional. This documentary is trying to show his exceptional sensitivity, strength, and courage in
And faith.
times of and faith.
Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas, yeah, I mean, Trump is known for being like, I mean, he's certainly like calm under pressure in a businessman way, but I mean, his negotiating tactic is being emotionally volatile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That literally is his like tactic.
Did you guys
It's
see
the-
how
called
mad
the
he
art of the
was this
deal.
morning?
I don't think so. What are you
Well,
referring to?
Okay, so he announced like 24 hours ago or whatever, maybe longer at this point, that Iran and Israel had reached a ceasefire agreement.
Oh,
and
true,
it was going
yes.
to be, it was going to stay, and it was going to last, and we were going to call this the 12-day war because it already ended, even though the day before he had said it's not a war, whatever. But the point is that he declared that this ceasefire is happening. I was like, come on, you can't. You're gonna like. I know the people you're sending this to like aren't gonna double check anything, but like
Yeah.
it's gonna be pretty obvious in about a day that the ceasefire didn't happen. And then sure enough, he was they were interviewing him on his way to like Air Force One or whatever, and he actually dropped an F-bomb on he was so mad
What they
that
said
they had
it
already
didn't happen?
broken it
Right.
because it was like less than an hour.
Oh yeah, he said like they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah, he was
He's
so
not
mad.
wrong.
Yeah, we basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Social media lit up. Forget bunker busters. Trump dropped the biggest bomb of all. Woke me up more than my coffee.
These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous.
Another Bush moments. Well, they talked about how he used to be an alcoholic, and you know, was that a mark against him? It was very funny that what the documentary tried to do was they opened each statement like they were going to do a both sides like investigation. Like they were like, some people believe that being an alcoholic discounts him, but people of faith think differently. Like, let's explore both ways. And then the next like 15 minutes would be like, this is why it was good that he was an alcoholic, because he had a problem. He admitted his mistakes and it made him stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy Graham changed his life because he would like come to the Bush house and sit in the kitchen and say they could quiz him about the Bible. And like Billy Graham told him to stop drinking or something. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it was good that he was an alcoholic because he had flaws that he had to overcome.
I thought it was he got really drunk and then he was hungover and went on a 3-mile run and he just decided I wasn't going to drink anymore. Didn't he like hit and run? No, that was Laura Bush. Like killed a guy drunk driving.
Was it really drunk driving?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
Should we
I don't
do
know.
a fact check on that?
Yeah, let's do a fact check.
Yeah,
in the public sphere, I can say anything I want about
have
them.
my twink pull up an article on that for us. When you search Laura Bush, like the 5th result is car crash. Oh, she was 17.
Right. Never mind. Okay, all right.
She was 17. We all killed someone when we were 17.
It says nothing says that she was drunk. All right, I take it back.
Or she did it
I
sober.
feel like
She killed
it's kinda-
somebody sober. That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say if she was drunk. It says she killed another 17-year-old classmate of hers when she was 17. That's
Ran a
crazy.
stop sign.
I liked a quote from there was a BBC correspondent, Justin Webb. They put his quote on the screen and it said, "Nobody spends more time on his knees than George W. Bush. The Bush administration hums to the sound of prayer. Prayer meetings take place day and night. It's not uncommon to see White House functionaries hurrying down corridors carrying Bibles."
Okay.
Beautiful.
So it's like The West Wing if it was produced by who are the brothers that do 7th Street Theater?
The fucking Cristiano brothers.
The Cristiano brothers. It's like if The West Wing was produced by the Cristiano brothers.
Are there any like do you think we need to find like a Christian movie about like Reagan that's about George W. Bush?
Yeah, but from like a narrative.
Like from a sincere, like appreciative.
That's a really good idea. I don't know if it's
I just
been
feel
done.
like he's so maligned and like his presidency was like such a tremendous failure on so many levels, like that it's regarded basically on all sides as part of the reason why Trump was elected the first time is because he talked shit about Jeb Bush and the Bush family and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's true. People were tired of the Bush family.
Yeah, and now Democrats are like, remember when things were nice when George Bush was in office? It's absolutely insane. But that's just because they all had jobs back then,
right?
And it was like all part of the secret club. But yeah, I don't know. It's I would like to see somebody who still believes in George W. Bush the way that this lady, what was her name? Patience. Purchase
Partial Janet Partial
Janet Partial believed in him at the time because also the presidency ended with like the global economy collapsing.
Yes,
so it's like nobody left the Bush presidency thinking like, man, I'm glad that happened.
Randomly about Jeb, I really like this tweet he made in 2017. It's like one of the best tweets ever. I'm gonna send it to the chat. It simply says, "It's over. We are back." Which is funny because now people use those as like it's like that's like slang. And I actually wondering did "It's over. We're back" like come from the Jeb Bush tweet?
What is that even in reference to?
I don't know.
November 11th, 2017. What happened November 11th, 2017?
I don't know. Someone in the comments is saying it was like a sports related thing. I don't know what that would be.
Oh,
I mean, that
baseball?
is. I think
there are
that
big
is
baseball guys that even came up in the doc.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
It's over. We are so back. I think comes from sports.
Apparently this is
Maybe.
about college football.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but just the phrase just out of context, "It's over. We are back." Tweeted by Jeb Bush is just like so funny.
He doesn't even do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
Please
funny.
retweet.
It's like they get. How did they get it? It's
Please
so
like.
funny. It's like, it's over. It's so over. We are so back. You
It's
can't even
over.
get
We're
that
back.
right.
No, yeah, right. It's
Like, how are
genius.
they so bad at this?
Well,
God.
again, this was from 2017. I don't know if people were really saying that in 2017, but
Yeah.
it's just like a curiosity. It's like the weird like vines of him going like MacBook Pro, iPhone. Do you remember that? He was just
Diesel
like
jeans, Adderall.
It was like that. It's like that, but it's Jeb Bush saying MacBook Pro.
iPhone.
MacBook Pro, baby. Driverless car. Can't wait. Follow Friday. Apple Watch. Any other funny, faithful George Bush moments?
I love the
We had enough of this
story
guy?
of his parents. The part where they were like, his father decided to become his own man and distance himself from the family fortune and move to Texas, which was known as the like oil get rich quick oil field bonanza.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm sure his family's wealth didn't have anything to do with him
No.
moving to Texas and drilling for oil.
Yeah, no connections there, I'm sure.
It was so funny. The idea that like an like the Bush family has been like in this country's DNA since like the 1800s. Like they always talk about like George H.W. Bush, but like George Prescott Bush was like one of the like most powerful people in the country for a long time too. And like the people, I don't know, it's just funny to be like George Herbert Walker Bush left his family to make a name for himself, and it's like
to become
this whole
president
thing
of
was
the
a
United
fucking
States.
to become a oil rich and then the president of the United
Right.
States.
Yeah. Something's not adding up.
Yeah.
He's just like me.
Yeah.
Yep. I really like the part where they talked about him buying the Texas Rangers and like turning that team around. And that was
Yes.
like why he would be a good president.
That's cool.
That was funny. I was like, all right.
What do you guys think about sports owners turning a team around?
Usually sports owners stay out of the way and let all these professionals who've spent their whole lives working on this thing do the job, or they meddle.
Right.
Those are like the two options,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, right. I guess that kind of makes sense.
Oh, I just think it's weird that like a politician can own a baseball team. Was he a politician at this point?
I don't know. When did he become governor versus when did he turn the Texas
I think
Rangers
that was
around?
pre-governor.
Did he sell the Texas Rangers?
Yeah. Must have been pre-governor.
Yeah. Because that was, I remember that somebody saying that too. If they had let Donald Trump become part owner of the Buffalo Bills, he never would have become president.
Oh yeah, I read that too. Damn. You really got to let these people just do whatever or they'll figure out a way to like fuck you over 1,000,000 times worse.
They'll do something. They'll just up the ante. Just go for something crazier.
Yeah.
I liked when they quoted Richard Gere dragging him. It was funny.
Yeah,
it's the
that was
worst
the voice
picture
they used for.
Yeah.
Screen actor Richard Gere was quoted as saying,
"One thing I've learned in my life is never to trust anyone who thinks that he exclusively has God on his side, especially when he's the President of the United States."
The voice they used for him and the worst picture of Richard Gere I've ever seen. And it was like the one
Yep.
image that was like squished slightly in the whole documentary.
Samuel Prescott Bush. That's the guy.
Oh, what'd he do?
He's the great grandfather of the Bushes. He was a steel guy. I can't read this article fast enough to really find out what, but you know, they've been around.
Yeah.
They've been around the
A
block.
steel guy when that meant a lot. I
Skull
got
and
it.
bones shit.
I think it's worth mentioning what a couple of the people who were interviewed got into. We should also mention him meeting up with the kid, the like Make-A-Wish kid or whatever, and his frog bookmark. There's a few people, there's like a handful of people they repeatedly interview about George Bush, and they're clearly reading off of cards, but one of the guys, Ted Haggard, who I mentioned earlier, he was first notable because of, how did you describe him, Ash, the face he's making?
Oh, I said he looked like an ape giving a threat response.
Yes, absolutely. He served as president of the National Association of Evangelicals from 2003 until 2006, which is what they're showing him under in this, since it's 2004. But he made national headlines just 2 years after this documentary, when a male prostitute and masseur, Mike Jones, not the Mike Jones, I don't think, alleged that Haggard, who had spoken against the legalization of same-sex marriage, had paid him for sex for 3 years and had bought and used crystal methamphetamine. Haggard resigned his post at New Life Church and his other leadership roles shortly after the allegations became public. Later, Haggard admitted to drug use, sexual activity with Jones, and an inappropriate relationship with a young man who attended New Life Church.
Oh,
he had strayed from God's path. It's crazy how this always happens to people like that. And they are victims of it. They're definitely not doing this on their own accord.
Absolutely. And somebody else, there was a guy, I think he was, what they called him, Denny maybe? But it was Dennis Hastert.
Yeah.
Who used to be a high school teacher and coach. He was elected to the United States House of Representatives in 1986 and reelected every 2 years until he retired in 2007. Yada, yada. He was chief deputy whip in 95, speaker in 99. And eventually, in May 2015, he was indicted on federal charges of structuring bank withdrawals to evade bank reporting requirements and making false statements to federal investigators. Federal prosecutors said that the funds withdrawn by Hastert were used as hush money to conceal his past sexual misconduct. And he pleaded guilty to the structuring charge. And in court submissions filed in April 2016, federal prosecutors alleged that Hastert had molested at least 4 boys as young as 14 years of age during his time as a high school wrestling coach. And he admitted that he had sexually abused boys whom he had coached.
Yeah, our guest, who unfortunately couldn't make it, mentioned that he remembered that happening from his MSNBC watching days, and that name did ring a bell. Yeah, it's just crazy that like these people walk among us.
Yeah. Oh, he's actually the highest ranking elected official in U.S. history to serve a prison sentence.
That is so cool. Until they get fucking Gavin Newsom in there.
Yeah. He probably will be the next Dem to run. But yes, I would like to mention real quick, Joseph Flatley, our buddy Lenny. He was supposed to be on, but thanks to the great infrastructure in this country that George Bush did nothing for, his power was out and will probably not be on for a couple days. So I just say that to say that he has a lot of information as a career journalist, whereas we just remember random things.
Yeah, check Wikipedia.
Exactly. There was something interesting that was brought up about halfway through, maybe a little further, where they were talking about how at the time when Bush was being elected, you could be arrested for saying Jesus in a high school. And a prayer was outlawed. A small boy got a detention for praying. Girls were being ridiculed for praying.
By the time George W. Bush reached the presidency, the courts and other officials were going so far as to attack prayer in elementary school. In Texas, a district judge told high school students that any student uttering the word Jesus at the school's graduation would be arrested and locked up. In Missouri, a 4th grader who bowed his head in silent prayer before his lunch is ridiculed for his religious beliefs and given a week's detention. In a New York kindergarten, Kayla Broadus held hands with 2 students seated next to her while reciting a small prayer over her food. She was silenced and scolded by the teacher and taken before the school's lawyer, who concluded her behavior violated the separation of church and state.
That every time I was like kind of half paying attention during that part, but I perked up when they started doing that because it was just like I was saying alone by myself, straight up just saying that is not true. That never happened. It was such like fucking chain email shit.
Yeah, and you can tell because they cut to like stock footage of like a boy in black and white, whereas they were using like real footage for many things in the documentary, like 9/11 or politicians or whatever. And then when it's like, and a 4th grader was suspended for prayer.
It was straight up like when you would be in school and somebody would be like, oh yeah, somebody at another school got arrested for saying Jesus.
Yeah, right.
It's like that didn't happen.
Yeah.
It was a rumor started by a 4th grader, and they're like, we gotta say it.
It is true, but it's funny because now we need like AI to back up these claims because we're so connected that any claim like that can be immediately refuted. Sure. And you just don't know anything. But back then you could just say, I said Jesus at school today, and the teacher said I would be arrested. And then people would just have to go with it. And it gets to fucking, what's her name? Priscilla Patience.
Janet Marshall.
Priscilla Patience. I like Priscilla Patience. That's really good.
Her name is.
That's really good.
Then she's fucking it, saying it in this documentary that I can only assume was seen by millions of people.
Sure. It was seen by 500 people.
Yeah. It was awesome. This documentary was awesome because it was like separation of church and state is a bad thing and it needs to be Christian. And like they would quote people who were saying like, the separation of church. I guess I said this already, but it was funny to hear the quotes of people being like, the separation between church and state is being eroded by this administration. And they would be like, isn't that nice?
Yeah, I know. They did the thing where they're like, some people are saying this, but here's why that's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So funny.
Or they'd be like, they would be quoting like somebody from the LA Times, something.
Yeah.
You can't trust like that. About how like the forefathers wouldn't have wanted it this way. And then they're like, well, actually the forefathers really did want this. And it was getting into like spiritual heritage of the United States Capital Territory.
Actually, the Beatles were Christian.
Yeah. Well, let's rate this. Let's rate this documentary.
Yeah.
Let's rate it. What do we think? George Bush. Great leader? Greatest leader? What do we think? George W. Bush, faith in the White House.
I am going to have to give this 9 out of 11, which is a perfect score.
Okay.
This was much better than Fahrenheit 9/11. That joke of a movie full of, is it even really a documentary? That's what they were saying in this documentary. Yeah. They're like,
right.
One Hollywood filmmaker who claims to be non-political has written and produced what he calls a documentary that many critics quickly disclaimed as pure propaganda, dedicated to the sole purpose of damaging the president's image.
And on the front of the DVD, it says that this is an alternative program to Fahrenheit 9/11.
Oh, that's so sick. Yes. Oh my God, I didn't know that part. That's fucking fire. No fun.
And then I actually thought to myself, I should watch Fahrenheit 9/11 again before we do this. And it's like, I'm not fucking watching that again. Come on, get out of here. Anyway, really stupid doc, but I laughed out loud multiple times. And yelled at the TV a couple times. So powerful stuff.
Yeah, very powerful. I agree. A great man.
A great man. Somebody
One of the greatest there
I
ever
would
was.
love to have a beer in hell with.
Yeah. I'm going to give this, I'm going to try to be fair here. I'm going to give this 905,000 out of 905,000, which is the low end of direct deaths directly caused by the war on terror, which ended just recently. And we lost, which is why we got to go to Iran now.
Yeah.
Because we need a dub. And we had a W, and we need a fucking W.
We really need a W right now, like more than ever.
I really, as horrible as that time was, and I guess at least it was directed outwards. Now all of the state violence is directed inwards. So it probably feels like we're in much worse times, which, in a lot of ways we are. But I feel like this was a comforting documentary for me because it really took me back to my childhood and a simpler time.
Yeah.
And when I was a young boy, I loved George W. Bush. I thought it was so cool that we were going to get those fuckers. Sure. And that's why I feel like if you ask a 13-year-old their opinion on politics, you should probably just do the opposite thing that what they say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's like me being propagandized for the California Angels because of the movie Angels in the Outfield. Like, it's like you get the programming when you're a kid,
Yeah, but a much simpler, albeit much more destructive and violent and horrible time that truly marked the beginning of the end for the United States and our empire, which probably a good thing. I don't know. It's weird because, you want your team to win, but at what cost?
Well,
you want them to win fairly.
Yeah.
You don't want them to win because they realize that if you foul as much as possible when the game starts, the ref kind of has to pick what they're going with.
We don't have to talk about it. Okay. These are actual traumatic things.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, we're trying not to address. We want our audience to have a fun time.
We're talking about the other Halliburton.
This is the other.
We want our audience to have fun. That's why we will talk about 9/11, but we will not talk about what just happened in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, exactly.
As for me, I thought this was an inspiring movie about a man who found faith under fire. I strive to be just like him. So I'm going to have to rate this documentary 1 out of 1 clandestine meeting at the Holiday Inn Express, which is coincidentally where we're podcasting from right now to get into character. We thank everyone here for engaging in alternative thought. An alternative to Fahrenheit 9/11 by watching George Bush Faith in the White House with us or just listening to us talk about it. If this is your first time here, go to boysbiblestudy.com for fair and balanced, wholesome reviews of media in a fallen world. And if you really like what we do and want to support us, donate to our crusade at patreon.com/boysbiblestudy. You could join the fucking partial. You could be a partial partner. We will send you exclusive materials, and you can text with Janet Partial. Also, special thanks to our patron saints at the $20 tier: Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Mark, and Alex. Thank you so much for your generous support. Our outro song is "Oh My God" by Mary. So, from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash W., my co-hosts Scott W. and Julian W., we would like to say, peace be with you.
And also with you.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day